I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A Prayer by George Washington. Almighty God, we make our earnest prayer that Thou wilt keep the United States in Thy holy protection, that Thou wilt incline the hearts of the citizens to cultivate a spirit of subordination and obedience to government, and entertain a brotherly affection and love for one another and for their fellow citizens of the United States at large. And finally, that Thou wilt most graciously be pleased to dispose us all to do justice, to love mercy, and to demean ourselves with that charity, humility, and pacific temper of mind, which were the characteristics of the divine author of our blessed religion, without a humble imitation of whose example in these things we can never hope to be a happy nation. Grant our supplication, we beseech Thee, through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. According to Wikipedia, quote, Leonard Peltier was born on September 12, 1944, at the Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation of the Turtle Mountain Chippewa, near Belcourt, North Dakota. He was one of 13 children. His parents divorced when he was 4 years old, with Leonard and his sister Betty Ann living with their paternal grandparents, Alex and Mary Dubois Peltier, in the Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation. In September 1953, Leonard was enrolled at the Wahpeton Indian School in Wahpeton, North Dakota, an Indian boarding school run by the Bureau of Indian Affairs. The school, which was located 150 miles away from his home in the Turtle Mountain Reservation, practiced forced cultural assimilation of indigenous children into white American culture by requiring the children to use English and forbidding the inclusion of Native American culture. He graduated from Wahpeton in May 1957, and then attended the Flandreau Indian School in Flandreau, South Dakota. After finishing the 9th grade, he returned to the Turtle Mountain Reservation to live with his father. Peltier later obtained his GED. In 1965, Peltier relocated to Seattle, Washington. Peltier worked as a welder, a construction worker, and as the co-owner of an auto shop in Seattle in his 20s. The co-owners used the upper level of the building as a stopping place, or halfway house, for American Indians who had alcohol addiction issues or had recently finished their prison sentences and were re-entering society. The halfway house took a financial toll on the shop, so they closed it. In Seattle, Peltier became involved in a variety of causes championing Native American civil rights. In the early 1970s, he learned about the factional tensions at the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota between supporters of Richard Wilson, elected tribal chairman in 1972, and traditionalist members of the Lakota tribe. It was Dennis Banks who first invited Leonard Peltier to join AIM. Consequently, Peltier became an official member of the American Indian Movement in 1972, which was founded by urban Indians in Minneapolis in 1968 at a time of rising Indian activism for civil rights. Wilson had created a private militia known as the Guardians of the Oglala Nation, or GOON, whose members were reputed to have attacked political opponents. Protests over a failed impeachment hearing of Wilson contributed to the AIM and Lakota armed takeover of Wounded Knee at the reservation in February 1973. Federal forces reacted, conducting a 71-day siege, which became known as the Wounded Knee Occupation. They demanded the resignation of Wilson. Peltier, however, spent most of the occupation in a Milwaukee, Wisconsin jail, charged with attempted murder related to a different protest. When Peltier secured bail at the end of April, he took part in the AIM protest outside of the federal building in Milwaukee and was on his way to Wounded Knee with the group to deliver supplies when the incident ended. In 1975, Peltier traveled as a member of AIM to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation to help reduce violence among political opponents. At the time, he was a fugitive, with an arrest warrant having been issued in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It charged him with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution for the attempted murder of an off-duty Milwaukee police officer. He was acquitted of the attempted murder in February 1978. During this period, Peltier had 7 children from 2 marriages and adopted 2 children. On June 26, 1975, FBI Special Agents Ronald Arthur Williams and Jack Ross Kohler returned to Pine Ridge to continue searching for a young man named Jimmy Eagle, wanted for questioning in connection with the recent assault of 2 local ranch hands and a theft of a pair of cowboy boots. Sometime after 11 a.m., Williams and Kohler, driving 2 separate unmarked cars, spotted, reported, and followed what has been described as a red pickup truck or van, but was in fact a white over orange Chevy Suburban carryall carrying Peltier, Norman Charles, and Joe Stuntz. Peltier had an outstanding federal warrant for the attempted murder of a Milwaukee police officer, although Williams and Kohler were not aware of this. Charles had met with Williams and Kohler in the evening before when the agents explained to Charles that they were looking for Eagle. After turning off US 18 into the Jumping Bull Ranch, where the Jumping Bull family had allowed AIM to camp, the occupants of the Suburban stopped, exited the vehicle, and a firefight ensued. Between 11:45 and 11:50, Williams radioed to the local dispatch that he and Kohler had come under fire from the vehicle's occupants and would be killed if reinforcements did not arrive. He next radioed that they both had been shot. FBI Special Agent Gary Adams was the first to respond to Williams' call for assistance from 12 miles away, but he and the other responding BIA officers also came under gunfire. They were unable to reach Kohler and Williams in time, as both agents died within the first 10 minutes of gunfire. It was not until about 4:25 p.m. that authorities were able to recover the bodies of Williams and Kohler from Kohler's vehicle. Norman Charles fired at the agents with a stolen British .308 rifle. Peltier had an AR-15 rifle. The 2 agents had fired a total of 5 shots, 2 from Williams' handgun, 1 from Kohler's handgun, 1 from Kohler's rifle, and 1 from Kohler's shotgun. In total, 125 bullet holes were found in the agents' vehicles, many from a .223 Remington AR-15 rifle. Kohler was 28 years old and Williams was 27. The FBI reported that Williams received a defensive wound to his right hand as he attempted to shield his face from a bullet that passed through his hand into his head. Williams was shot in the body and foot before the lethal contact shot to the head. Kohler, incapacitated from earlier bullet wounds, was shot twice in the head. Williams' car was driven to the AIM camp further south on the Jumping Bull property and stripped. The agents' guns were stolen. Allegedly, Darrell Butler took Williams' handgun, Peltier took Kohler's, and Robert Robideau took Kohler's .308 and shotgun. Stuntz was found wearing Kohler's FBI jacket after he was shot and killed by a BIA agent later that day. At least 3 men were arrested in connection with the shooting: Peltier, Robert Robideau, and Darrell Dino Butler, all AIM members who were present at the Jumping Bull compound at the time of the shootings. Peltier provided numerous alibis to several people about his activities on the morning of the attacks. In an interview for Peter Matthiessen's 1983 book, In the Spirit of Crazy Horse, Peltier described working on a car in Oglala, claiming he had driven back to the Jumping Bull compound about an hour before the shooting started. In an interview with Lee Hill, though, he described being awakened in his tent at the ranch encampment by the sound of gunshots. But to Harvey Arden, for Prison Writings, he described enjoying the beautiful morning before he heard the firing. In his 1999 memoir, Prison Writings, My Life is My Sundance, Peltier admitted to participating in the shootout, but said he did not kill the FBI agents. On September 5th, Butler was arrested. Agent Williams' handgun and ammunition were recovered from an automobile in the vicinity. 4 days later, Peltier bought a station wagon. The following day, AIM member Robideau, Charles, and Anderson were injured in the accidental explosion of ammunition from Peltier's station wagon on the Kansas Turnpike close to Wichita. Kohler's .308 and an AR-15 were found in the burned vehicle. The FBI forwarded a description of a recreational vehicle and Peltier's Plymouth station wagon to law enforcement during the hunt for the suspects. The RV was stopped by an Oregon State Trooper, but the driver, later discovered to be Peltier, fled on foot after a small shootout. Peltier's thumbprint and Kohler's handgun were discovered under the RV's front seat. On December 22, 1975, Peltier was named to the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. On February 6, 1976, Peltier was arrested, along with Frank Blackhorse, by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Hinton, Alberta, Canada, at the Small Boy Camp, transported to Calgary, Alberta, and taken to the Ocala Prison Farm in Vancouver, British Columbia. In December 1976, Peltier was extradited from Canada based on documents submitted by the FBI. Warren Almond, Canada's Solicitor General at the time, later stated that these documents contained false information. Blackhorse was also extradited to the United States, but charges against him related to the reservation shootout were dropped. One of the documents relied on in Peltier's extradition was an affidavit signed by Myrtle Pourbear, a Native American woman local to the area near Pine Ridge Reservation. While Pourbear stated that she was Peltier's girlfriend during the time and had watched the killings, Peltier and others at the scene said that Pourbear did not know Peltier and was not present during the murders. Pourbear later admitted to lying to the FBI, but said that the agents interviewing her had coerced her into making the claims. When Pourbear tried to testify against the FBI, the judge barred her testimony because of mental incompetence. However, the Canadian government later reviewed the extradition and concluded it had been lawful since, quote, the circumstantial evidence presented at the extradition hearing, taken alone, constituted sufficient evidence to justify Mr. Peltier's committal on 2 murder charges, end quote. Peltier fought extradition to the United States. Robideau and Butler were acquitted on grounds of self-defense by a federal jury in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, since the forensic evidence showed that they had not been the ones to execute the agents, and the government had no witnesses at the time who could prove they knew they were attacking FBI officers. This was not the case in Peltier's trial, where the FBI had forensic evidence and eyewitnesses that together linked Peltier directly to the killings of the officers. Peltier's trial was held in Fargo, North Dakota, where a jury convicted him of the murders of Kohler and Williams. Unlike in the trial for Butler and Robideau, the FBI produced forensic evidence that 2 FBI agents were killed by close-range shots to their heads when they were already defenseless because of previous gunshot wounds. Consequently, Peltier could not submit a self-defense testimony like the other activists had. The jury was also shown autopsy and crime scene photographs of the 2 agents, which had not been shown to the jury at Cedar Rapids. In April 1977, Peltier was convicted and sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences. Some organizations have raised doubts about Peltier's guilt and the fairness of his trial, based on alleged inconsistencies in the FBI and prosecution's handling of the case. 2 witnesses in the initial trial recanted their statements and stated they were made under duress at the hands of the FBI. At least 1 witness was given immunity from prosecution in exchange for testimony against Peltier. During a June 8, 2024 interview by Native News Online, Peltier's serving attorney Kevin Sharp, who has also served as U.S. District Judge for the Middle District of Tennessee from 2011 to 2017, including as Chief Judge from 2014 to 2017, stated the following, quote, Pine Ridge was a powder keg, with the Goon Squad operating there with the government's help. AIM was there to protect those who were not part of the Goon Squad. There were many murders and assaults in a 3-year time frame. When plainclothes agents in unmarked cars arrived, a firefight ensued. Leonard did not shoot the agents, and the FBI knew this, but withheld evidence. The Court of Appeals acknowledged this, but couldn't overturn the conviction due to legal standards. Judge Heaney, who wrote the opinion, later supported clemency for Leonard. Now, 38 of Judge Heaney's former clerks support parole for Leonard, including 3 who worked on his case. The government admits they don't know who killed the agents, but it wasn't Leonard. It's time to release Leonard and start the healing process, end quote. FBI radio intercepts indicated that the 2 FBI agents, Williams and Kohler, had entered the Pine Ridge Reservation in pursuit of a suspected thief in a red pickup truck. The FBI confirmed this claim the day after the shootout, but red pickup trucks near the reservation had been stopped for 2 weeks, and Leonard Peltier did not drive a red pickup truck. Evidence was given that Peltier was driving a Chevy Suburban, built on a pickup truck chassis with an enclosed rear section. Peltier's vehicle was orange with a white roof, not a red opened bed pickup truck with no white paint. At Peltier's trial, FBI agents changed their previous statements that they had been in search of a red pickup truck, and instead that they were looking for an orange and white van, similar to the one Peltier drove. This contradictory statement by the FBI was a highly contentious matter of evidence in the trials. Though the FBI's investigation indicated that an AR-15 was used to kill the agents, several different AR-15s were in the area at the time of the shootout. Also, no other cartridge cases or evidence about them was offered by the prosecutor's office, though other bullets were fired at the crime scene. However, the appeals court confirmed his conviction in 1986, noting that even though later evidence suggested there were multiple AR-15s in the area, the government's expert witness had testified during the trial that he could not match 14 shell casings to the AR-15 that killed the agents. The appeals court stated further that the fact was ultimately irrelevant given these shells were ejected in locations such that, quote, it would have been very difficult, if not impossible, for anyone to have fired at Kohler and Williams from these points, end quote. Instead concluding that, quote, it is more likely that these casings were ejected from an AR-15 in the firefight that occurred after Kohler and Williams were killed and other agents had joined in the shooting, end quote. During the trial, all the bullets and bullet fragments found at the scene were provided as evidence and detailed by Cortland Cunningham, FBI firearms expert, in testimony. Years later, in 2004, a request under the Freedom of Information Act prompted another examination of the FBI ballistics report used to convict Peltier. An impartial expert evaluated the firing pin linked to the gun that shot Williams and Kohler and concluded that some cartridge cases from the scene did not come from the rifle tied to Peltier. Again, the appeals court rejected the defense's argument because the information included in the FOIA request, quote, did not refer to the .223 casing found in the agent's car, but to the other casings found at the scene, end quote. The court concluded that given the immaterial nature of this new evidence, it was not probable that the jury would have reached a different verdict had that information been available. Peltier began serving his sentence in 1977. On July 20, 1979, he and 2 other inmates escaped from the Federal Correctional Institute, Lompoc. One inmate was shot dead by a guard outside the prison, and another was captured 90 minutes later, approximately 1 mile away. Peltier remained at large until he was captured by a search party 3 days later, near Santa Maria, California, after a farmer alerted authorities that Peltier, armed with a Ruger Mini 14 rifle, had consumed some of his crops and stolen his shoes, wallet, and pickup truck key. Peltier attempted to drive the truck away at high speed down the rough gravel road, resulting in a broken transmission, after which he again fled on foot. Peltier was later apprehended without incident. After a 6-week trial held in Los Angeles before Judge Lawrence Leidick, Peltier was convicted and sentenced to serve a 5-year sentence for escape and a 2-year sentence for felon in possession of a firearm, in addition to his pre-existing 2 life sentences. Peltier's conviction sparked great controversy and drew criticism from a number of prominent figures across a wide range of disciplines. In 1999, Peltier asserted on CNN that he did not commit the murders and does not know who did. Peltier has described himself as a political prisoner. Numerous public and legal appeals were filed on his behalf. However, because of the consistent objection of the FBI, none of the resulting rulings were made in his favor. His appeals for clemency received support from world-famous civil rights advocates including Nelson Mandela, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama, Nobel Peace Prize laureate and activist Rigoberta Menchú, and Mother Teresa. International and national government entities such as the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner on Human Rights, the United Nations Working Group on Indigenous Populations, the European Parliament, and the Belgian Parliament have all passed resolutions in favor of Peltier's clemency. Several human rights groups, including the International Federation for Human Rights and Amnesty International, launched campaigns advocating for Peltier's clemency. In the United States, the Kennedy Memorial Center for Human Rights, the Committee of Concerned Scientists, Inc., the National Lawyers Guild, and the American Association of Jurists are all supporters of clemency for Peltier. The police officer who arrested Peltier, Bob Newbrook, is convinced that he, quote, was extradited illegally and that he didn't get a fair trial in the United States, end quote. On June 7, 2022, the United Nations Human Rights Council's Working Group on Arbitrary Detention released a 17-page analysis of Peltier's detention, rendering the opinion that it contravenes Articles 2, 7, and 9 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Articles 2, 9, and 26 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights as arbitrary and falls within categories 2 and 5. The working group urged, quote, full and independent investigation, end quote, surrounding his detention and requesting that the U.S. government remedy his situation, quote, without delay and bring it to conformity with the relevant international norms, end quote. In 1999, Peltier filed a habeas corpus petition, but it was rejected by the 10th Circuit Court on November 4, 2003. Near the end of the Clinton administration in 2001, rumors began circulating that Bill Clinton was considering granting Peltier clemency. Opponents of Peltier campaigned against his possible clemency. About 500 FBI agents and families protested outside the White House, and the FBI director, Louis Freeh, sent a letter opposing Peltier's clemency to the White House. Clinton did not grant Peltier clemency. In 2002, Peltier filed a civil rights suit in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia against the FBI. Louis Freeh and FBI agents who had participated in the campaign against his clemency petition, alleging that they, quote, engaged in a systematic and officially sanctioned campaign of misinformation and disinformation, end quote. On March 22, 2004, the suit was dismissed. In January 2009, President George W. Bush denied Peltier's clemency petition before he left office. In 2016, Peltier's attorney filed a clemency application with the White House's Office of the Pardon Attorney, and his supporters organized a campaign to convince President Barack Obama to commute Peltier's sentence, a campaign which included an appeal by Pope Francis, as well as James H. Reynolds, a senior attorney and former U.S. attorney who supervised the prosecution against Peltier in the appeal period following his initial trial. In a letter to the United States Department of Justice, Reynolds wrote that clemency was, quote, in the best interests of justice in considering the totality of all matters involved, end quote. In a subsequent letter to the Chicago Tribune, Reynolds added that the case against Peltier, quote, was a very thin case that likely would not be upheld by courts today. It is a gross overstatement to label Peltier a cold-blooded murderer on the basis of the minimal proof that survived the appeals in this case, end quote. On January 18, 2017, 2 days before President Obama left office, the Office of the Pardon Attorney announced that Obama had denied Peltier's application for clemency. On June 8, 2018, KFGO Radio in Fargo, North Dakota reported that Peltier filed a formal clemency request with President Trump. KFGO obtained and published a letter that was sent by Peltier's attorney to the White House. On July 9, 2021, Reynolds wrote a letter to President Biden in which he stated, quote, I have realized that the prosecution and continued incarceration of Mr. Peltier was and is unjust. We were not able to prove that Mr. Peltier personally committed any offense on the Pine Ridge Reservation, end quote. On February 6, 2023, Leonard Peltier again made a plea for clemency. On June 10, 2024, Peltier had his first parole hearing since 2009, with a decision on parole being required to come within 21 days. On July 2, 2024, Peltier was denied parole. After Peltier was denied parole, his lawyer, Kevin Sharp, stated that an interim hearing to discuss parole was set in 2026, while another full hearing was set for 2039. Ahead of the 2024 parole hearing, Sharp described the hearing as, quote, probably Peltier's, quote, last chance to make a case for parole. From 2014 until 2025, Peltier was housed at Coleman, the high-security penitentiary wing of the Coleman Federal Correctional Complex in Coleman, Florida. On January 19, 2025, the last full day of his presidency, Joe Biden commuted Peltier's life sentence to home confinement, beginning on February 18, 2025. His son said that the Turtle Mountain Band has a home arranged for him on the reservation in Belcourt, North Dakota.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be number one. Working hella hard until I get just what I want, yeah. Rises like the sun, yeah, fatal like a gun. Shooter's gonna shoot and I'm gonna shoot until I won, yeah. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. Grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win, yeah.